Okay, I guess we're gonna call the meeting to order. Get a hold of it. We're here today for Senate Bill 269, whether establishing a commission to study energy-saving weatherization programs. We are here to either recommend for future legislation or for not for future legislation. Just to remind everyone, use their microphones because we are on, so.
I'm willing to make a guess, which is, the electric and gas utilities get to put things on the rate, put some charges on the rate to pay for the weatherization, whereas, how do you get an oil company to chip in? How do you calculate how much they're going to do? And it seems like a kind of a difficult, not difficult question to answer, and I'm not sure how necessary it is. We do have to fund energy efficiency if we're going to do it, but I think that's kind of the question that was being asked in that part of the bill. That's just my guess. It's what makes sense to me.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think the bottom line is we're going to be asking with this, it would be to take a look at asking the gas and oil companies to put funding towards weatherization, which just means that they're going to increase the costs. It's going to be passed on to the consumer. And at this point in time, I think that's not a great idea because of the crisis that we're having with the high cost of energy at the moment.
how are we proceeding here? Are we going, are we going down through the bill sent line by line? It doesn't seem to, I would say that the way we should, the way I would like to go through it is to, first of all, I have a revised version for the bill, which starts with definitions. Like, first one is building energy efficiency. What's the energy efficiency of a building? What is it that we're talking about? Second one is weatherize. What does that mean? Third one, energy audit. What does that mean? Energy efficiency program. What does that mean? And then we go with a declaration of purpose, which is basically where the original bill started. But I think we have to know what we're talking about before we think about how to improve this bill. And if I could be allowed to, after Representative Callie Pitts has, and this discussion is part of the discussion is finished, I'd be perfectly happy to go over my definitions.
I guess I have nothing to lose now and nothing to gain. I believe that this bill, as written, should not go forward. I believe that we do not need another study committee. I believe that weatherization, I think everybody in this room, I'll speak for myself, and I'm almost everybody, thinks that weatherization is important, and that is a big bang for the buck. And that's where I think it needs to stop. This bill cannot be amended. This bill cannot be approved in this session. What has to happen is that we have a clean bill and have it brought back next year, next session, and I can't do it, for consideration. And I think that the weatherization program, I think it needs to be ramped up. And we're talking now, I believe, about home weatherization. We start to get into the weeds about should we charge a surcharge on oil per gallon? Should we charge a per cubic foot on gas? I think that's going to just make this whole thing a mess. So I don't know if you're ready to entertain a motion yet, but if I was going to make a motion, it would be that this bill as written should stay here and a completely new, clean bill be written, perhaps to up the ante a little bit for weatherization, because we know that's the biggest bang for the buck right now.
Thank you. I agree with Representative Callie Pitts. There are a lot of things happening right now that make that'll be a $5 fine for you, that make moving forward with a commission, and remember, that's the subject of this bill, is the creation of a commission. So if we were to recommend this bill for future legislation, it would be to create a commission. With everything that's happening with the Inflation Reduction Act and all the money that it provides for energy efficiency and home weatherization, the landscape is changing dramatically. DES and the Department of Energy are going to be authorized to spend millions of dollars on energy efficiency in the next year, 2, 3, 4 years. So I'm not sure that there's any value in creating a commission to study this question. Now that we have a Department of Energy, they have folks in the department whose job it is to pay attention to energy efficiency and home weatherization. They're going to be doling out the federal dollars to make that happen. So as Representative Callie Pitts said, this bill, which just creates a commission to further study this question, probably isn't going to provide any useful information. And so I would recommend that we not recommend that this bill for future legislation. And as Representative Callie Pitts has suggested that somebody bring forth a clean bill after the November elections to make some further headway on energy efficiency and home weatherization in consultation with the Department of Energy to try to get an understanding of how the landscape is going to change with the infusion of all these federal dollars. That would be my take for the moment.
Got it. So, okay. That's a procedural question. We have 6 members here today, and I would hate to see this bill deadlocked because of that. Oh, 5? John? 4, 5. Oh, okay, okay. I stand corrected. Thank you. Okay, but I'm seeing 6 people here. I know.
I'm not a voting member. I'm just an interested observer.
I am seeing 6 people here, though. And, okay, I am right about that. Okay, yeah.
You're seeing 6 people.
There are 7 people, but, Chair, 6 voting members with a potential for gridlock. Okay. Okay, thank you for explaining that then. Okay. I did not understand that a tie vote would result in a non-recommendation. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you. I think the bill is a very important bill because of the concept of the study, the fact that we're going to have a concrete piece of understanding about what we mean by energy efficiency, what we mean by what we think we ought to be doing, and so on. And I would like to explain a few things so that I can, because I will use a vocabulary that I want everybody to understand. And if I could just run through a few of the things that I have come up with, you might change your mind about this bill in terms of whether it's worth going forward with. So if you don't mind, I'll take about 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
We're discussing here about establishing a commission. We're not talking about the nuances here. So we're either going to be yay or nay on a commission. So this is not pertaining to the bill, what you want to do. Yeah.
Okay, then I want to, then I will have, if I have to speak to that. See, when you read the original bill, obviously the interest is in energy efficiency for people's houses. When you talk about a grandmother or with little kids in the house and the house is difficult to heat, you're not talking about, theory or politics or anything. You're talking about doing something that needs to be done in this state. So let me just run through some definitions really quickly, and I think if you hear them, you might understand what I'm getting at. And I believe I should have the right to make myself clear. First of all, we're talking about the energy efficiency of buildings. It's called building energy efficiency. It's about how well the building maintains a suitable environment for the building's purposes, despite whatever weather is going on outside, whether it's freezing winter or hot summer. Weatherize means, which we see it all the time, means improving the house, finding out whether or not it's doing an adequate job in terms of energy efficiency, and then implementing measures of various sorts, from adding insulation to perhaps changing some windows that would make the building operate more efficiently as a building. In other words, and the result of that would be a major drop in or a significant drop in the cost, not just for electricity, but also for any of the fuel that's used. For example, a house heated by oil has an oil furnace burning oil, and it has several electric pumps that run that oil furnace and distribute the warm air or the hot water around the house. Weatherization starts with it's a two-step process. Weatherization starts with what's called an audit, where someone who is professionally competent goes into the building and figures out where the building is lacking in energy efficiency. One of the tools, for example, is to depressurize the building with a fan and then go around with an infrared scanner and find out where all the cold air is coming in. Really very effective tool. That's what an energy audit typically is. I did see one energy audit where the houses in a development were very well understood, and all the person had to do was to find out whether there was insulation in the walls or not. The rest of it was obvious. So I think, and finally, an energy efficiency program is something done by a community or a state to get all the buildings in the community or state over time gradually weatherized so that they perform much better in terms of energy efficiency. This has tremendous benefits, not just for the family in the building, but also for the state economy. We have some very unusual things going on in our state today. We joined the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, and instead of using the money for reducing CO2 emissions, we give it back to ratepayers. They get about 65 cents to $1 a month rebate on electric bills, for example, according to two of the representatives for a couple of years ago. So I'm a family, I'm getting $1 a month rebate from Reggie. So I get $1 a month, that's nice. But I pay the oil companies $8 a month more because the house is not insulated. And I pay the electric bill $2 or $3 more because the house is not insulated. This is ridiculous. This is awful. So what we need, and what this original bill was calling for, is somebody to lay down the facts about what energy efficiency is about and why it's important. And this idea of forgetting about the bill and pussyfooting around and then talking about the Department of Energy, about which we know nothing. Nothing. Is just a rotten way to treat the citizens of this state. The three states around us, with our three northern New England states, Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont, all have excellent energy efficiency programs. One of the energy conferences I went about 2 or 3 years ago, they were laughing at New Hampshire. They had reports from those three states about how their programs were going. And the title of the conference, that particular part of the conference was reports from the donut. The joke being, of course, that New Hampshire is the whole. It really is appalling. And I think as politicians that would like to get reelected, I think it would be really sensible for us to stand up and bang our fists on the table and say, God damn it, we're going to do energy efficiency. I'm sorry. Now, I want to give you a couple of more things. My daughter bought a house in Maine.
All right, John, we're doing the merits of the bill. Time, enough. You want to do your definitions. We gave you a lot of latitude, but we're done now. No, we're done. We're done. We're moving on. We have a motion on the floor, and I didn't have a second on it, but we have a motion on the floor not to go forward on this.
The idea of a commission is to have a very important topic discussed in a formal manner. That's what it's about, is to have a formal, recognized discussion about an important issue. And the commission should go forward and create a block, a concrete block that says, this is what we're going to do. That's what this is about. Or this is what we're not going to do. Whatever it is, it's a very important topic.
Jose, you haven't had to speak. You haven't had a chance.
I would like to second the motion to not put forth, to make a recommendation to not put forth this bill.
Motion and a second on the floor. Motion and second on the floor.
I understand John's passion because John has been passionate all the years he has been on this committee about weatherization. And I think he has convinced most of us that it's an important program. The understanding that I think is not there is that this bill can't go forward the way it is, no matter what we say. If we recommend that it go forward, all it is saying is somebody is going to pick it up, and I'm looking at probably Louis, to put forward a bill, Lucius, a bill that will move forward and move through the legislature next year. This legislature has taken many steps, and one of them was raising the income limit on the fuel assistance. Well, maybe that's something that needs to be done on weatherization, because people who are living, like myself, a flush away, probably could use it. I live in an apartment and I can't, but perhaps that's one of the steps we could take. The makeup of the commission, as I'm looking at it here, is everybody who has a special interest. So I think you need to really look at these things, and that will be looked at next session. And hopefully something meaningful will pass in the first year. We all realize that we need help and we need things done now. And we're getting them done now. And I commend John for his passion. Sometimes passions get out of hand, and I know that as well as anybody. But this can't get done now. Even if we say, go ahead, we recommend that it move forward, that does not bind the next committee, and there's nothing we can do with this one in front of us. It is sufficient. It is dead for all practical purposes. And the way we always referred to a bill that was studied in the second session is a nice death. So we all understand, John, and I think all the members of this committee who are coming back understand. And I see our Department of Energy out there, and I think they understand what the feeling of this committee is. But this bill, for all practical purposes, the way it's written now, is dead.
I'd like to point out a couple of things. Number one, this bill delegates 3 duties to the commission. 2 of those duties probably aren't going to be able to make happen. Number one, it says policy direction to further prioritize weatherization within the existing New Hampshire Saves programs. In HB 549, the determination that the system benefits charge can only be used, 65% of it can be used only for electrical energy efficiency, is going to shrink the weatherization programs within New Hampshire Saves. So that policy duty of this commission probably is going to go nowhere. Number 3 is use of other funding sources such as grant funds, and that's going to be the purview of the Department of Energy to find ways to allocate the resources that are coming down from the federal government and other places. So if 2 out of the 3 duties of this commission are virtually impossible to carry out, then it seems to me that there's no point in going forward with this commission.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I tend to agree with my esteemed colleague, Representative Vos, on this one. I really think that I would like to see weatherization go forward, because if we do, as Representative Mann has pointed out, if we reduce our demand for electricity, economics dictate the cost will go down greatly for our ratepayers. I think we have to do something, but I really feel that this commission, as written here, is not going to address all the issues that we really need to address. And I have actually a little more to say than beyond that, so thank you.
Well, you don't have.
Yeah.
The notion, what we're doing here is making a recommendation to our full committee. What is the full committee going to do with this bill? And I understand the points that have been raised. Don't agree with all of them. But I think it's important for this working group to say in its recommendation to the full committee, weatherization is an essential part of the program that we need to take responsibility for. And because we have the federal funding, because it's possible, because we have these people hired at DOE whose responsibility it is, now is our opportunity. So let's make it happen. Now, I think the way to accomplish that is to pass this and to say to our full committee, we recommend this because we want this issue dealt with. We want people in the state helped. Now, you can read it the other way and say, we don't need a commission to do that, therefore let's not recommend it. You know, as long as we get the message to the committee that this is essential and we want someone on the committee to pick it up and run with it with an LSR that goes in December and something happens in January and people can be helped. That's what we want to do, and I think we're all in favor of that.
Yeah, it's almost as if we're deciding here that we're sort of replacing what should be the conclusion of a very well-designed and commission of people that know what they're talking about and can discuss and argue with lots of intelligence. And we're replacing that with just, hey, we don't think the bill is ready. Of course it's not ready. Of course it have to be amended significantly. But it's, if you just look at the topics to be discussed in this commission, It just about covers the ground, and it needs to be done. We are so backward in this state. Let me give you just a couple of more examples. My wife bought a house in Massachusetts. It was covered with asbestos shingles, looked like Manchester buildings, nasty old building. She paid a lot of money for it. She had an energy efficiency audit done. They came in and for $900 more, they insulated the entire house from inside because you couldn't go through asbestos shingles. She paid $94,000 for the house. For a few years later, before we moved here to New Hampshire, which is where she grew up, she sold it for $350,000. Zillow has it for about 1.7 million now. Energy efficiency is important to the value of a house. It gives the owners money, gives the owners a return on investment. I would like to also say that automation is getting rid of a lot of working class jobs, and we know that. And doing the energy efficiency work, blowing insulation into walls, is not difficult work, but it takes manpower, and it offers jobs, and the jobs are not only reasonable to do and pay reasonably well, but they are worthwhile, and the people doing it, you can see they really feel they are doing something for the homeowner. This would be very valuable for all those people that are looking for work. There's a huge benefit to this. And it isn't just people saving a little money on their electric bill or their oil bill. My library had a competent audit done, and we saved 58% off the original heating bill. It's a stone building. It was impossible to insulate any of the walls. I have a lot of experience with energy efficiency. I have no personal interest in this. I want to know that. My house is a perfectly constructed, perfectly designed energy efficiency house. We have to have air circulated by electricity to make sure we have breathable air in the house during the winter. We don't burn anything for fuel. For the first few years, we had a wood stove. Now we have a heat pump. Energy efficiency can do a hell of a lot for us and for future generations who have to live in the climate that we leave for them, and we can do our share.
I just want, I know this is, I don't know if it's being taped, but I don't want anybody to get the idea that this committee's been sitting on its hands. Long before you, John, we passed a community college course in auditing, so an efficiency auditing, so that people could come in and be proficient at what they're doing. This committee has worked, and I'm going to speak for myself now because this is probably, well, my next meeting will be the last. We have worked diligently to try and get the best we can for energy usage, to push that down, to make things better, to take care of wood stoves that were polluting the Keene area because of the bowl. We have done all that. And there's still a lot more to be done, and it will be done. And I will ask you, sit down with the committee at some point before filing period is over and draft a new bill to accomplish what we need to accomplish. And that bill should be fast-tracked. It shouldn't be a bill that is going to sit around for next year and then get studied. It should be a fast-track bill. And you also sit down with the governor's people to make sure that it can get done. You can do that. Anybody on this committee can do it. And together, we'll accomplish it, because I think the goal of everybody, and I'm going to speak for the Senate too, far be it from me, I'll speak for Jeb Bradley, all of us, well, he was my first chairman, so I can speak for him, all of us want to accomplish that, and all of us have been working for years to accomplish the same thing. But there's only one way to do it, and that's together. This bill is not the vehicle, but there is a bill out there, I'm sure of it, that will come out of your mind, will come out of Lee's, we are gone, but we're not dead. So that's my parting salvo, and I will ask the chair to call the question. Vote on that?
We'll do a roll call on the, we have a motion, a second. We've already discussed it. We gave you your time and you spoke well and passionately, but we're going to call the roll.
Well, I called the question. You have to take that up.
We have to vote on calling the question?
The motion, I believe, was
Not recommend
recommend
in this form.
So a yes vote would mean not
Recommend, yeah.
and a no vote means issue. So we are not recommending it for the legislation. How do we?
Yay.
Representative Oxen.
No.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I want to, and I'm sure Representative Vos would. We're coming back for a meeting next Thursday, but Representative Mann is not going to be here. Oh, you are? I was going to thank you, so I'm not going to thank you now. Ah, forget it.
You guys lost. I'm gonna be back here.
You were going on vacation.
Yeah, but my wife is not.
So I would like to thank all the members of the subcommittee for this discussion here this afternoon. John, it's always good to hear from you. I'm glad you were able to be here today. And we can discuss it again some more on Thursday if need be. But I think this was a good discussion, and I thank you all for being here.